True crime is a genre that captivates and disturbs in equal measure. It pulls us into the darker corners of human existence, challenging our understanding of morality, justice, and the complexities of the human psyche. But what happens when we look beyond the gruesome details of the crime itself and delve into the philosophical questions they raise? In this exploration, we will not only examine the darkness that surrounds these stories, but also connect them with deep philosophical reflections. By doing so, we aim to foster a contemplative space that invites us to think about the bigger questions in life. What does it mean to be human? What is the nature of evil? What is justice, and how do we understand it? As we journey through these questions, we will draw on the wisdom of philosophers like Immanuel Kant, Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, Søren Kierkegaard, and Émile Durkheim to help guide our thoughts. The question of what it means to be evil or good is central to the true crime genre. In these stories, we often encounter individuals who seem to defy any simple categorization of right or wrong. Philosophers throughout history have grappled with this issue, and their insights can help us better understand the moral dimensions of true crime. Immanuel Kant, for example, believed that moral actions must be driven by a sense of duty, not by personal gain or desire. For Kant, evil arises when a person chooses to act contrary to their moral obligations. This view challenges us to consider whether true crime is a result of individuals turning away from their moral duties and violating ethical principles. Kant's emphasis on duty forces us to ask, can we hold people accountable for their actions if they act out of a failure to recognize their moral obligations? Friedrich Nietzsche, however, offered a different perspective. For him, evil is not merely a lack of moral duty, but an inherent part of human nature. Nietzsche believed that the will to power, the desire to assert oneself and dominate, drives human behavior, and sometimes this will lead individuals to commit acts that society labels as evil. Nietzsche's view challenges us to reconsider the very nature of morality and evil. In true crime, we often see individuals whose actions are driven by a need for power, control, or revenge, prompting us to ask whether they are morally evil or simply acting on a fundamental human instinct. The existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre adds another layer to our understanding of morality. Sartre argued that human beings are radically free and that our choices define who we are. According to Sartre, we are not born with predetermined identities or moral values. Rather, we create our own essence through the choices we make. This radical freedom is both liberating and burdensome, as it implies that we are fully responsible for the consequences of our actions. In the context of true crime, Sartre's philosophy prompts us to ask whether the perpetrators of these crimes are truly free, or whether they are trapped by the circumstances of their lives, unable to escape their own choices. Albert Camus, another existentialist, offered a profound perspective on human existence in his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. Camus argued that life itself is absurd and devoid of inherent meaning, yet we are compelled to find meaning in it. In his retelling of the Sisyphus myth, he portrayed Sisyphus not as a tragic figure, but as a symbol of human resilience in the face of absurdity. Camus believed that despite the futility of existence, we must continue to live with awareness and purpose. This idea resonates with the unsettling nature of true crime, where the search for meaning often appears futile, yet the human desire to understand and make sense of the darkness persists. True crime also raises profound questions about justice and the law. In these stories, we are often confronted with situations where the legal system fails to deliver what we would consider true justice. The concept of justice itself can be elusive and complicated. Is justice merely the application of laws, or is it something deeper, an ethical ideal that transcends legal codes? Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher, offered a perspective on justice that is rooted in existential responsibility. Kierkegaard believed that individuals are not only free, but must also bear the burden of their freedom through responsibility. He saw human existence as a struggle between freedom and anxiety, between the desire to act and the fear of the consequences. In the context of true crime, Kierkegaard's philosophy challenges us to think about the responsibility of both the perpetrator and the society that judges them. What does it mean to take responsibility for one's actions, and how does this responsibility relate to the idea of justice? Émile Durkheim, a French sociologist, took a different approach, focusing on the social function of crime. Durkheim argued that crime is not simply a moral failing, but a necessary feature of society. Crime, he believed, helps define the boundaries of acceptable behavior and can even lead to social change by challenging outdated norms. In true crime stories, we often see how crimes push societies to reconsider their laws and values. Durkheim's theory invites us to view crime not merely as a breakdown of individual morality, but as a reflection of broader social issues. It raises the question, can crime ever be justified, or is it always a symptom of something deeper within the social fabric? Another recurring theme in true crime is the inevitable presence of death. The death of a victim often serves as the tragic culmination of a crime, but it also raises existential questions about the meaning of life and the certainty of death. Death is the ultimate unknown, and it confronts us with our own mortality. How do we understand death, and how does it shape our actions, especially when we are faced with the finality of someone else's death? In many ways, death brings us face to face with the absurdity of existence, an idea that Albert Camus explored in depth. According to Camus, life is inherently meaningless, but we are compelled to search for meaning nonetheless. The existential confrontation with death, especially in the context of violent crimes, forces us to ask, how do we cope with the absurdity of life and death? Camus suggested that it is precisely in recognizing life's absurdity that we can find a kind of freedom, the freedom to create meaning in our own lives despite the inevitable conclusion of death. Søren Kierkegaard also addressed the role of death in human existence, though from a more theological perspective. He believed that death was the ultimate existential challenge, as it confronted us with the question of whether our lives had meaning. In the face of death, Kierkegaard argued, we must make choices that reflect our deepest values and commitments. This idea echoes in many true crime stories, where individuals make choices that ultimately lead to tragic deaths. Kierkegaard's philosophy challenges us to think about how we live in the face of death, whether we are passive victims of fate or active participants in the creation of our own destiny. As we journey through the world of true crime and philosophy, we are confronted not only with the darkness of human behavior, but also with profound questions about our existence. There are no easy answers to the mysteries of crime, justice, or morality. However, it is in this search for understanding that our humanity lies. True crime stories, while often disturbing, offer us an opportunity to reflect on our own lives, our values, and the society we live in. They invite us to question the nature of good and evil, the meaning of justice, and the role of individual responsibility. By engaging with the philosophical perspectives of Kant, Nietzsche, Sartre, Camus, Kierkegaard, and Durkheim, we are reminded that these timeless questions continue to shape our understanding of the world. And perhaps, in that pursuit of understanding, however dark and unsettling it may seem, we find the greatest hope for personal and collective growth. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more philosophy of pop culture.